Saving the world requires sacrifice. Sometimes people die.
Oh my God. I
just always feel like I'm putting my friends in danger. The world needs the next Iron Man.
You going to step up or not?
Hey everybody, it's Chris Bumbray here again for JoBlo.com with a video review of Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, before I go into my review, a word about spoilers. I'm going to try not to go into them here at all. However, I am going to talk a little bit about Avengers Endgame, so if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, I don't want comments on the review complaining about spoilers for Avengers Endgame, because I'm giving you a warning right now. There are spoilers for Avengers Endgame. I can't possibly talk about Spider-Man Far From Home without going into Avengers Endgame spoilers. If you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, you don't need to go see Spider-Man Far From Home. You need to see Avengers Endgame first. So, please know that there are spoilers here for Avengers Endgame. This is your warning. It's your last shot. I'm going into them right now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, everybody who's still here, here's our review of Spider-Man Far From Home. So, as you all know, at the end of Avengers Endgame, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark died. What a surprise. Yes, it was a surprise, and appropriately, the movie actually starts off with something of a tribute to Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, as well as Black Widow, and as well as Captain America, and as well as even Vision, putting together kind of a nice little collage that's amusingly scored to a song that I think you'll all pretty know that was made famous by another film. Otherwise, though, Spider-Man Far From Home is being called the end of Marvel Phase 3, and if anything, it's less of an ending, more of an epilogue to Avengers Endgame. If Avengers Endgame was the main course, this is kind of the after-dinner snack, a little bit more than a dessert, but not too much more. This is kind of the what happens now chapter after everything's gone haywire. Conveniently, Peter Parker, along with virtually the entire returning cast from Spider-Man Homecoming, were among those taken in what's now being called the blip, the 5 years when they were away. Thus Parker, MJ, May, Flash, Ned, and even Betty Brant are all still high school age. Now this is one of my few issues with the movie. Maybe if May or something had been left behind, the dynamic might be a little bit more interesting because they could have dealt with that a bit more, but I digress. I don't think they wanted to get too heavy with this kind of wrap up to the series, or to phase 2 at least, because I think they just wanted to send everybody out on a high note. And sure enough, they really do. I think it really does do the job. This is one of the most fun Marvel movies in quite a while, although, you know, they've all been pretty fun, I have to say. So this is a lower stakes Marvel movie in kind of the same way Ant-Man and the Wasp was. And it's a nice antidote to how heavy the Avengers movies are, as this is all about fun. And now, it's kind of a tribute to Marvel's verisimilitude that there's room for both in this universe, and you buy it. You can have one fun one heavy one, and no one ever really walks away disappointed. Sure, we love the heavy Avengers movies, but we also like the kind of fun, not so serious Marvel movies, the ones that run 2 hours instead of 3 hours. So there's room for everything. Here, Peter and his pals jet off to Europe on a class trip with our love-struck hero trying to put the moves on Zendaya's MJ, who he's crazy about, and hey, she's even kind of making eyes at him too, so who knows. Too bad then that Nick Fury's short a couple of Avengers and needs him to team up with a multi-universe traveling hero, Quentin Beck, played by the man who would have been Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2 if Tobey Maguire hadn't come back, Jake Gyllenhaal. And this character is dubbed Mysterio in his exploits, someone that you'll all know from the comics, although I think he's quite a bit different here than he is there. Together they have to take on what's called the Elementals, who threaten to destroy the world and, worst of all, ruin Peter's vacation and potentially jeopardize his relationship with MJ. Overall, this is a lot of fun. Tom Holland has absolutely no trouble carrying the movie. He's such a likable hero. He's pretty much what Michael J. Fox would have been like playing Spider-Man back in the 1980s. One thing that's really cool is how distinct this is from what Sony's doing in their Spider-Verse, which is working a heck of a lot better than I think anybody ever thought it would. He's a nice guy hero coming of age, and I like having a boyish Spider-Man, as opposed to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, who were always 18 going on 35, as good as they were. Zendaya also really gets a chance to shine as MJ, and she puts a unique spin on the classic character. She's doing her own thing, it's very modern, kinda edgy, and you know what? I think it really works. Her chemistry with Tom Holland, spot on. Meanwhile, Jacob Batalon is on hand for comic relief as Ned, but the whole movie is kinda comic relief, so at times, maybe his jokes were a little bit unnecessary. Kind of the zingers now and then felt a little bit tacked on. I also really love Samuel Jackson in this, and Colby Smulders. They're kind of having a good time after having been sidelined from most of the Avengers movies, I think. Here, they're kind of front and center. Also, very impressive, Michael Giacchino's score, as well as Jon Favreau, and what's a bigger part than usual as Happy, who has to step up and mentor Peter now that Tony's gone. I have to say, another thing that really impresses me about the Marvel movies is the continuity that they have, considering which is is something, considering that the directors are always different, a lot of the technical staff gets different. A Marvel movie feels like a Marvel movie, and I have to say, John Watts directed it. It does feel at a point now that Marvel is its own big director. It's very rare for a director to have a really unique stamp on the movies, but John Watts does have his own kind of idiosyncrasies that he brings to the film, such as kind of a flashback 80s structure. And I like what he did with the music in this. There's some interesting song choices, and the pace is really good. Only runs about 2 hours long, but I have to tell you, you have to stay throughout the entire closing credits. There's one scene that happens in the middle of the credits that is so important that it's probably more important than anything that actually happened in the movie, because it totally sets up phase 4. And really, if you leave the movie without watching the end credits, you really shouldn't have even bothered going to see it in the first place, because this is really probably the anchor that the rest of that phase is going to be sitting on. So if you want to know anywhere, if you want to have any idea of where the franchise is going, where the whole Marvel universe as a whole is going, you got to stay for those credits. The one that happens after the end credits probably isn't as important as the mid-credits one, but it's still pretty important. I mean, there's something more going on here than just one of the end credit joke scenes, like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it's just an ant playing drums, or even in Captain Marvel, where it's a cat coughing up the Tesseract. Here, something really, really, really significant happens, so you should stay all the way to the end of the credits. So, like I said, stay for the entire end credits, even if all the people that you're with want to leave. It's very important that you stay. Otherwise, though, I have to say I really enjoyed Spider-Man Far From Home. These Marvel movies are always very consistent. They're always well done. They're always entertaining. Some of them maybe stay with you a little bit more than others. I don't know if Spider-Man Far From Home is going to stay with me in the same way that Avengers Infinity War or Avengers Endgame did, but I have to say, as a standalone Marvel movie, it's pretty good. They're always pretty good. It's very rare that one comes along and is an absolute disaster. This is a very good one. Anybody who loves Marvel movies is going to love it, and I give it a strong 8 on 10. Until next time, I'm Chris Bumbray for JoeBlow.com.
Everywhere I go, I see his face. I just really miss him.
Yeah, I miss him too. I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know that you were going to be here after he was gone.
You gonna be the next Iron Man now?
Well, no, I don't have time. I'm too busy doing your jobs.
Oh. I'm kidding. Look, keep up the good work.
Because I am going on vacation.
Heads up, Nick Fury's calling you.
I don't really want to talk to Nick
Answer
Fury.
the phone.
Why?
Because if you don't talk to him, then I have to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. You sent Nick Fury to voicemail?
I gotta go.
You do not ghost Nick Fury.
What up, Dorks?
What's up? We're just talking about the trip.
I'm here in St. Marco Polo.
Oh, I think MJ really likes me.
That reminds me when I first fell in love.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man. This is Mr. Beck.
We could have used someone like you on my world.
Your world?
Beck is from Earth, just not ours. The snap to our hole in our dimension.
You're saying there's a multiverse?
We have a job to do, and you're coming with us.
There's gotta be someone else you can use. What about Thor?
Off-world.
Captain Marvel?
Unavailable.
But I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Bitch, please, you've been to space.
What do you want, Peter?
I want to go back on my trip with the girl who I really like and tell her how I feel. MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
You're right, you may not be ready, but this is my responsibility. Saving the world requires sacrifice. Sometimes people die.
Oh my God.
I just always feel like I'm putting my friends in danger. The world needs the next Iron Man.
You going to step up or not?
I gotta get you guys out of here. Get on the jet. Who are you? I work with Spider-Man.
You work for Spider-Man?
I work with Spider-Man, not for Spider-Man. New plan.